All right, I'm currently on the phone with Razlog. He's another musician that reached out about the current interview sessions. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Hey, what's up, man? My name's Kevin Razlog. I am the drummer in Poet the Band. I am also a booking agent at Olympus Talent Agency.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to chat with me. So with these interviews, I always kind of like to dig into how a musician became a musician. So tell me about when you kind of first came in contact with music and realized that it was going to have a bigger play in your life.
The very first concert my parents ever took me to was Soundgarden in 1992. So I was about like 5 years old. They always had, cassette tapes, CDs, because when we were growing up, that's the medium that we had at the time. So they were always like pretty big into music. But as far as like how I actually got into being a musician was kind of like a fluke. So I want to say I was in like third, maybe fourth grade. And one of my classmates, we would hang out after school, and his dad had like a full recording studio, drums, guitars, the whole nine yards. And he's like, oh, yeah, if you want to go sit on that drum kit and mess around, like, be my guest. I had no training, like, knew nothing. So I'm just sitting there wailing on it, like, had no idea what I was doing. And come to find out, he ended up telling my parents that, like, I had some sort of natural gift, I guess. I don't know how he determined that, because I was literally awful. And then that year at Christmas, we go downstairs and there's like nothing under the tree for me. And my parents are like, oh, your gift's in the basement. And like our basement was unfinished. It was really dark. Like I was like basically terrified of going down to the basement by myself at that point in time. And I go downstairs. There was a black TKO, biggest hunk of junk drum set ever. But first kit, I absolutely loved it. I was actually like completely terrible at drums for at least a good year. I started taking lessons probably about like 8 months after I got it. And then I'd say around a year and a half of taking lessons, I finally got the hang of it and the gist of it, and been playing ever since.
How would you say your parents adapted to you learning drums that first year?
Well, the first year, like I would go down and mess around for like, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes at a time. So like it wasn't them having their ears bleeding for a long period of time. But once I got into middle school, I would be in the basement for 3 or 4 hours straight. I had a bunch of different CDs, like the mixtapes we used to burn back in the day that would be like, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours long. And I would just go through each CD, like religiously playing each song. And it was everything from like Korn, Dave Matthews Band, Goldfinger, Brian Setzer Orchestra, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. And like, I remember at one point in time when my parents were like, yeah, like it's more enjoyable now that you're good at drums, 'cause like we can kind of tell what song you're playing and this and that. So, but like, for a couple of years, like we had a walkout basement. The basement wasn't finished, and it was like 14-foot tall ceilings, so it was super loud. And I'm very thankful my parents put up with it for as long as they did.
Yeah, that's cool that they had a good attitude about it and, came around when you started to like, showing development and stuff. That's great.
Right. Exactly.
So tell me about how you interacted with music beyond that. You mentioned that you did take private lessons. Did you do like concert band or jazz band or marching band or anything like that?
So when I was in middle school, I did do band for, I think, a year. At that time, it was like you could either do the snare, you could do the cymbals that you like clap together. I don't even remember what those are called. Or the big kick drum. And at that point in time, like I already was like decently good at drums. So I just did snare. And it really didn't do much for me. So after that first year, I just said, I'm going to move on. And then lo and behold, the following year, they actually got a full drum kit. And I was like, damn it, I missed out on that. But it was a cool experience just because, like, I had never interacted with like people playing like like a cello and xylophone and like all that other stuff. And like when I took lessons, I did read sheet music. That was one of the first times I was actually doing it in an actual setting outside of lessons. But with all that being said, I lost the ability to read sheet music a long ass time ago. So I guess it really didn't serve me much of a purpose later on in life.
Sure. Well, on that note, that kind of transitions nicely into my next set of questions. Tell me about starting to work with other musicians. Like once you got to the point where, you had practiced all your CDs over and over and you were ready to start working with other musicians. First of all, how did you go about finding other musicians to play with? And then what was kind of your process for integrating into, practicing with other musicians?
So when I was in high school, I played varsity hockey basically my freshman through junior year. And when I was a freshman, it allowed me the ability to hang out with guys that were juniors and seniors because there was juniors and seniors on the team. And one of the dudes on the team was like, "Oh, like my brother actually played for the same team as well." He was like, "Oh, your brother was saying you're a drummer, this, that, and the other." Long story short, his buddy had a band and they needed a drummer, and literally went over to his house. He already had a drum kit there. They played me a couple of the songs that they had written. I started playing drums. And then I want to say within a few months, we did like our first show. So it happened pretty quick and organically. And I got a really good vibe and energy from performing in front of people. And it's funny because I was like horrible public speaker. I really was shy in like front of people. But like as soon as I got behind the kit and started playing, like all that kind of went away. And yeah, so we did that for probably, I think up until my junior year. And then the band kind of just like faded away because, people graduated, moved away to college and stuff. And then I actually didn't really play drums much throughout college. And then literally like the day I graduated, I moved back home and I was like, I want to be a fucking rock star. And I literally just started Googling like local bands in Metro Detroit, how to find a band. And that's when I actually stumbled across the first like actually serious band that I was a part of. So yeah, it obviously feels like it was meant to be because I've seemed to have found myself involved in music with relative ease at the beginning, not to take away from all the hard work that goes into it, but I always just seem to find a project and, run with it for, however long it ends up being, regardless of the expiration date.
Well, so to kind of add a little, extra context to what you just said there, sometimes when you have put a lot of work into it, it can come across as easy going when you are able to find musicians that are, very talented in projects that you want to be a part of. And a lot of that is based on the confidence you have because of all the work that you've already put into it. So just to kind of,
that's fair.
yeah. Just to add a little bit of context there that you're not kind of just blowing steam there. There is validity to what you just said.
Well, so like to kind of build on that, and you're 100% right. I think where I'm coming from is that like I've been offered positions like over the last, I don't know, like 10 years to like, hey, like we're looking for a drummer, this, that, and the other. And I'll be honest, and it's not to crap on any of these bands, but like they'll have, really, really crappy recordings. The people aren't serious. Like there's a myriad of variables that go into it. And it's just crazy that out of the few bands when I was searching to find a band, I ended up finding a group of serious musicians that we kind of all had the same mindset. And like a band in high school is entirely different than being in a band in your 30s. Like the whole we were going to get a record deal thing, like that wasn't even the goal. The goal was to like write songs, have fun, and play. Whereas like nowadays, is the goal to get a record deal would be cool, but it's like our goal now is to like have it be a profitable business to where we're not putting our own money into it, touring across the country and having fun. So while the end goal is similar, it is changed a little bit, but I'm just like more astounded that the few bands that I randomly stumbled into early on in my career, like everybody was good. We were all on the same page. Like, I don't know. I guess I got pretty damn lucky.
Yeah, there's definitely a spectrum of scenarios that not everybody gets to experience that. So, yes, there is some luck and situational kind of balance there, but sometimes it works out that way for people. But that kind of leads into what the next set of questions are, is about kind of how you got to where you are now. So, did you have to go through a couple iterations of bands to kind of get to your current project? And then tell me about what your current project is.
Yeah. So when I moved back from college, like I was saying, I wanted to find a band, and I came across this website. I think it was called like bandmix.com. And I found this band that was looking for a drummer. They were based in Metro Detroit. They had their MySpace, they had their music listed, and it wasn't like exactly up the alley of what I wanted to play genre-wise per se, but it was metal. So I was just like, this seems cool. So I hit them up. They actually auditioned me and their other guitar player, who ended up being one of my very good friends, Kelly Tucker, that passed away a couple of years ago. So we showed up. It was really funny. Like, the job I had at the time required me to wear like a suit and tie. And then I show up to this dude's house with my drums, like wearing a suit and tie for this metal band. And it totally looked out of place, but like they knew I hadn't really played in like 3 or 4 years. We ran through the 4 songs, and they're like, damn, like if you haven't played in 4 years, like we can only imagine how good you're going to be when you get some practice. So they brought Kelly and I in. We started playing shows around Metro Detroit, played like the Machine Shop and some other pretty cool venues. And then I was really like, I wanted to go out. Like, I didn't want to just stay in Michigan. I wanted to go tour. I wanted to, play in different cities and all that. So at one point I kind of got thrown into doing all the booking, and that's when we started doing that. The singer at that point in time had I think he had 3 kids at that point, and it just wasn't really feasible to like actually tour and stuff. So there was another project called Harlow. They poached me, I guess you could say. And we started playing around most of the Midwest, East Coast. I think we went down as far as Florida and Texas. And then that band kind of fizzled out. So, I had gotten some exposure to the stuff I wanted to do, which was great. But I could tell like I wanted to do a lot more musically. I wanted to travel and, be as serious as I possibly could. So, I spent a couple of years trying to find another project that seemed to fit that mold. And then randomly out of the blue, I was just like scrolling through Facebook, and one of the buddies that I knew, he had toured a lot. I was like, oh, I wonder what his band is up to. So I had hit him up. He's like, oh, that band's really not doing anything, but I got this new project I'm working on. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, do you guys need a drummer? He goes, as a matter of fact, we do. So, he sent me the first song, which ended up being our debut single, Miss Misery. And I listened to 30 seconds of it. Immediately was like, yep, I'm in. And then 2 weeks later, we were down in North Carolina shooting our first music video. So it happened really, really quick. But yeah, that brings us to current times with the band I'm in right now.
And that's Poet, the band.
Correct.
Just to make sure that gets out there. So tell me about what you guys are working on. You mentioned it was a very quick turnaround getting music video recorded and everything. And I know you guys are putting out music right now, but for the sake of storytelling, tell me about what you guys have done and where you're going.
Yeah, so we're coming up on like just over 2 years of being a band. So like officially in January of 2020, was it 23 or 22? 22. In January of 2022, we released our first single. We did our first tour that July, and we released our first EP that July alongside 4 music videos. And then this whole past year, we did another 5 or 6 music videos, and we just released our second EP. We did 2 tours this year. The first one was like 16, 17 shows in like 18 or 19 days. And then the tour we just did in October was a West Coast tour. We went all the way to California and back. That was, I think, like 18 shows in like 22 days. So yeah, we've been really, really busy playing and writing and putting out content. But yeah, I mean, as far as like moving forward next year, our goal is to continue to release music. I don't think we're going to aim to do as much touring just because of the amount of time, money, and everything that goes into it. And we really just wanted to build a good foundation for the band from the beginning. And now we're seeing that we need to invest a little bit more time and effort into like the social media side of it, maybe doing some more ads just to get a bigger, wider audience and visibility. We've had a couple record labels talk to us, and they basically all told us, hey, like, you guys are doing things the right way. You're on the right path. We just need to see the numbers go up a little bit. And, you know, that kind of just takes a little bit of time, patience, and money. But yeah, so next year we're mainly doing festivals, and there may be an opportunity for us to go overseas. So we're just kind of staying on track. Our goal is to release a new single every 8 weeks starting in January. So kind of just the same thing we've been doing, just changing where our efforts are put, so to speak.
Awesome. That's very cool. So on a personal level, tell me about a couple things that have happened to you that have kind of really informed the direction that you take towards music.
Well, I think one of the most important things that maybe some people might be jaded about or just really not think of is the kind of impact that you as a musician in a band can make on somebody. So one situation that I thought was like totally wild and super cool, it was that second band I was in, Harlow. We were playing in Louisville, Kentucky, and I think it was like a Wednesday. And so typically they did like an open mic night kind of thing. And then they had us, because we were on tour with this other band, play after. So the band we were out with went on first, we went on second, had a good show. There was a pretty decent crowd. And like, I'm breaking down my drums, and this lady comes up to me and she's like, oh, hey, like, sorry to bother you. Like, I know you're breaking down, but I wanted to like introduce you to somebody if that's cool. So long story short, her cousin, he was like a paratrooper or something over in like the UK, I believe. And when he was in battle, I think he lost his vision from like shrapnel or something, right? So this dude's blind, and he's a drummer and spoke very broken English. Anyway, she's like, oh, you know, he hasn't sat behind a kit in like 20 something years. Like, could you just like let him play for like, you know, 10 seconds or something like that? So I walk him behind the kit. Like, I'm kind of like taking his arm, like, oh, here's the snare, here's the tom, here's the cymbals. And he kind of starts jamming. Our bass player starts playing for like 3 or 4 minutes. And then after that, you know, we start breaking down. I'm like, yeah, you know, give me like 20 minutes. And then we were at the bar with him for like the next like hour bullshitting, you know, going over, you know, life stories and all that stuff. But it was just really cool that like in that situation, like he told me like that made his entire trip. He was so thankful. And it was like just a simple gesture. Like, I literally took, you know, 20 minutes out of my time of breaking down to just like help this dude out, you know, made his weekend, his night, his trip, whatever. So same thing goes to like with social media. I handle all the social media outreach for the band, like on everything: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, all that shit. And we do get a lot of messages from people, and there's a lot of people that will like want to open up about things they're going through and like how the music has helped them through this, that, and the other. And like, I've been on the other end of it where like I've been a fan and like I've reached out to a musician or band and it like goes unread, or they see it and they don't respond. Now, I'm not sitting there going, oh, I'm going to, you know, end my life over it because blah, blah, blah didn't answer, but it can be a little bit discouraging. So we've gotten tons and tons of positive feedback from people that are like, damn, like, you guys respond within like 2 or 3 minutes. You always respond. You never try to like cut the conversation short. You're always willing to hear, you know, what I'm going through and this, that, and the other. So, you know, and we're not a big band. Like, I could only imagine if we were like a huge, like world renowned band, like the amount of like messages and shit we would get. But I just look at it as being like a good person and, trying to show people that, if you reach out to a musician or an artist, there could be a good chance that they'll respond. Like I reached out to Matt Greiner from August Burns Red because he's one of my favorite drummers. And he actually responded within like minutes. And I was just like kind of obviously starstruck because he's like such an amazing drummer. But like he was just genuinely super cool. Like he wouldn't always like respond right away, obviously, but like I'll hit him up like every 6 or 7 months and just like, hey man, hope you've been doing good. Like, hey, check out this new snare drum I got. He'll give me a thumbs up. He'd be like, oh, that's wicked. What are the specs? Kind of shit. So, yeah, I think a lot of it's just being a good person and, being open to just listening and talking to people. Maybe they need to vent. Maybe they need a shoulder to cry on, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity to kind of transition into doing your social media plugs. Where can people reach out to you?
So literally every single one of our platforms has the same handle. It's Poet the Band. It's very, very easy to find.
And I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So what's a message that you have that you want to share with people?
I guess the best message that I have is people need to give music a chance. And it doesn't even need to be like a brand new artist, but like, you'll see a band, let's use Spirit Box, for example. I've been following them for quite some time, even before Spirit Box was Spirit Box. And it's incredible that you'll see a band get so much praise from their audience. And then after, 2 albums or whatever, they start getting a lot bigger. And then all their diehard fans start turning into haters. Oh, it's not the same kind of music. Like they're selling out. They're doing this, they're doing that. From an artist perspective, people got to understand like people's tastes change, people's influences change. And if you just kept putting out the exact same album, you're kind of just doing yourself a disservice because then those people are going to go, oh, this is the only thing the band can do. They're a one-trick pony. So I think the most important and crucial thing to keep in mind with music and artists is they could be going through something in their life that makes them choose to maybe go a different direction with the music. And a lot of us put, our hearts and souls into everything that we do. And getting tons and tons of criticism from keyboard warriors is a very tough thing to fucking deal with, especially when they don't know you on a personal level. So if you can try and put yourself in their shoes, I'll use someone like Ronnie Radke for an example, right? I think he's a habitual shit starter, and obviously it works for him. But like, could you imagine if you were in that position and you had just millions and millions of people on all these platforms just shitting on you, talking mad shit, saying you're worthless, you should kill yourself, all this stuff, and then go, would that make you feel good as a person? You know what I'm saying? So before you go and dog on somebody from an artist perspective, music perspective, just kind of think about that. And if the roles were reversed, how you would feel if you were put in that situation. I think with technology and just how the world's different now than it was, 15 years ago, a lot of people don't realize that if you were in that same position 10 or 15 years ago, that you didn't have the ability to do that. If you were doing it face to face, you'd be getting beat the fuck up and, it wouldn't end well for you. I think a lot of people take comfort in being behind a keyboard and freely just talking shit and not understanding the potential repercussions of those things that they said if it was in a real world scenario. So I think people just need to kind of chill out, let artists do their thing, support them, because at the end of the day, if nobody supports music and the music goes away, you're not going to have it anymore. You're not going to have shows. You're not going to have festivals. And I mean, at the end of the day, this is supposed to be an outlet for the fans. It's supposed to be an outlet for the artist. And I want to keep it, going the way that it's going.